Welcome to part 2 of Oilers TV Playoffs, presented by Sport Check. Tom Gazzola alongside Bob Stauffer from the Oilers Radio Network. We're going to take a look at the Anaheim Ducks, Bob. They've won the last 3 games, 2 of them which came in overtime. A heartbreaker here in Game 4, and then an epic Game 5 in double OT. If you're the Anaheim Ducks, do you believe in momentum, especially in the postseason? Because what we've been hearing from the coaches is you leave that last game and it starts anew.
Well, I think the narrative for Anaheim is that they too can be resilient. They illustrated that with what's now considered the greatest comeback in NHL history in a playoff game, which is tough to say if you're an Oilers broadcaster. So we sit there and look at that third goal against from an Edmonton perspective and say, tough call.
Yeah.
But from Anaheim's perspective, you're saying, what a comeback. We stayed in the fight. We battled through it. And ultimately, they got the win in overtime. So they've won 3 straight games. They won a couple in OT. They were really good here in game number 3 for stretches of that game, though the Oilers dominated the second period. Game 4, they kind of shut the Oilers down for about 35 minutes. Then the Oilers got a late one, but then the Ducks struck quickly in overtime. Game 5, for my money, could have gone either way. I know the Ducks pumped a lot of shots at Cam Talbot. They got a good team. Make no mistake, they win a lot of faceoffs, which is a challenge for Edmonton, and their defense can move the puck. And right now, they got one guy in particular up front, and he is having the series of a lifetime.
Ryan Getzlaf, 10 points in this series. How did the Oilers, we're going to look at it from a Ducks point of view. What does the Ducks try to do to get him to continue this unbelievable stretch he's been having here?
Well, it's funny because Todd McClellan, has talked about the fact, he's big, he's strong, he's skilled, he's got terrific vision, he's got a tremendous shot. He's pretty much got everything, maybe except hair. And because of that...
Who does he remind you of?
Mark Messier, right? Yeah. Back in 1990 against the Chicago Blackhawks in the third round of the playoffs that year. Mark Messier took over Game 4 in that series and took over that series. And to me, that's the player Getzlaf most reminds me of it's, from the past. And I don't think Mark Messier would be at all insulted with that,
Absolutely
by the way.
Not.
So, we're seeing a guy that's playing top 5 in the world right now. I mean, he's that good of a player when he's going like this. And then he's supported by a guy like Kessler, who, those guys played huge minutes in game number 5 of that series. And that's, you look at the depth of the Ducks, and we know how much Randy Carlyle hard matches. They do have some injuries with guys like Eves out, and Kasha skated today, but he still looks like he's out as well. So they're a little bit banged up front, but they got a lot of depth on defense and some terrific puck movers, and then they got those 2 horses down the middle, and they are a challenge to deal with.
Getzlaf and Kessler in a good spot heading into this Game 6. Let's hear from the Ducks dressing room.
They're big games. They all are. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this one's bigger than the last one, because the last one puts you in a good position. So these are all about just showing up, playing the game, trying to stay level-headed throughout the whole thing. That's the biggest message that we can send to our group, is not to get ahead of ourselves, just play the game.
These guys are going to come out with, a lot of pride, especially playing in front of their home fans, and they always play well in this building, and they come at you really strong from the very start. So need to make sure that we're ready for a simple road game, weather those first 5 to 10 minutes, and then try and settle into the game after that.
We got to try to negate their offense. We got to get on. We got to hopefully get pucks in. We got to make them play defense. We got to neutralize, their attack early.
When you get presented opportunities, you have to take advantage of it. We're going to take on the attitude that we have to be better than we were the other night, and that's been our focus from game to game. We have to find ways to eliminate the lulls that we've had in games throughout the playoffs, and that's the most important thing for us.
Both teams are probably banged up, and I think it's all about winning. And I think physical play goes into it. I think that's a part of it in terms of wearing teams down and competing on the puck and being hard to play against. But I think if you ask them too, I think it's all about playing our game plan and getting a win.
I'm not a huge believer in momentum carrying over from game to game. I think it was huge for us. Obviously, Game 5 is pivotal. So if we were in this situation down a game, I think it'd be a lot tougher, obviously. But when you change cities and there's travel involved, I just think every game is its own entity, and we have to come out with that same fire that we had in the last 3 or 4 minutes in the last game, but it's hard to carry over to the next one.
For us, this whole series, this whole playoffs has been about preparing for that next day. So what happened in the past doesn't mean anything now. We got to be remembered for the team that wins the series, not for the team that won the game.
So the Ducks have an opportunity to clinch a spot in the Western Conference Final tonight if they are able to beat the Edmonton Oilers. Now, here's the situation when it comes to the Ducks, Bob. The last 4 seasons they've been in this situation where they've had a chance to eliminate an opponent in Game 6. They've lost Game 6 on the road, only to lose Game 7 at home. Does that kind of play into their minds a little bit?
Well, there's two ways to look at this. I mean, we talked about earlier on about the fact that, you know, the Ducks have won 3 straight games. They have momentum, but they've parked it too.
Right.
And they're focused on going out and getting tonight's game. So if you look at it from that perspective, what's happened in previous years, it's a different team. It's completely irrelevant. And
Different
if I was
coach.
in Anaheim's room and I was Anaheim's management team and coaching staff, it is a different coach. It's Randy Carlyle, and who has had success, won a Stanley Cup, albeit with 2 of the best defensemen in the mid-2000s, Chris Pronger and Scott Niedermayer on that team. So that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is the core of the team has spit the bit a couple times. However, that core has been brilliant in this series, led by Ryan Getzlaf. So, you know, I think it's for the Oilers, they're going to have to play their best game. I really do. And in the Ducks' case, you know, what we've seen here, I actually think they've probably, I mean, the Oilers are 2-1 in Anaheim in the series and lost a game they probably should have won. Maybe they won a game they should have lost as well.
Yep.
But the Ducks, in my opinion, played better for the last several years here in Edmonton. So I think it's well within their scope and ability to close this thing out. It's going to be incumbent upon Edmonton to take it to Anaheim tonight.
Ducks unbeaten on the road this postseason. I want to point out, too, that in 2 of those 4 series, they also lost the first 2 games at home, only to win the next 3, and then drop Game 6 on the road and Game 7 at home. So we'll find out what happens tonight if that trend continues as the Oilers try to stave off elimination in Game 6. We've got you covered live post-game. Oilers TV presented by Sport Check.